Have you ever known someone who, when told something they didn't want to hear, just pretended that they didn't hear it? The plea or message falls on deaf ears. It strikes me that both our Old Testament lesson and our gospel lesson, God's plan is being revealed. And in both cases, there is a reluctant witness who doesn't like what they're hearing and would rather not be part of the plan. Moses sees the burning bush and he says, "Cool, I think I'll go over and poke it with a stick and see what happens." Sam tells me it's a guy thing. This burning bush that was not being consumed was outside the experience of Moses. It was designed to draw him in. And it was only after Moses turned aside to see this phenomena that God spoke to him. And the first thing he says is, "Take off your shoes, for you are standing on holy ground." This was a sign of respect in the Middle East. And when God revealed himself, Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. Then God lays out his plan, and Moses complains, "I'm too old. I'm slow of tongue. I don't know your name. They won't believe me. Besides, I'm wanted for murder. Who's going to follow me?" He tried every way he could to get out of it, but God just wasn't buying it. God tells Moses, I have observed the misery of my people. I have heard their cry. Indeed, I know their suffering, and I have come down to deliver them." God has heard the cry of his people, and he cares about what they are experiencing, what has happened to them, and what they are feeling. And he not only cares, but he wants to do something about it. He's not going to intervene directly himself, but he is appointing someone to go for him. And he will work through that person to redeem and free his oppressed people. This says a lot about what is going on around us right now. God knows what has happened here, and he cares. And he is going to work through people like you and me, to help those who have lost so much. God cares, and he is going to make himself known through the people who have said yes to God's call to reach out to those who suffer. In our gospel lesson today, Jesus reveals God's plan for the first time, that he will have to suffer and die, and after 3 days will rise again. But the disciples don't want to hear it, especially Peter. Peter is ready to fight for Jesus, to lay down his life that Jesus might live. Most of us probably didn't hear the gospel last week, the one where Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do people say I am?" And they repeat the standard answers: Elijah, Jeremiah, John the Baptist, or one of the prophets. Then he brings the question home: who do you say that I am? That's a harder question to answer, because you have to put yourself on the line and make a decision, right or wrong. And Peter steps right out there and says, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Good answer, Peter. And he's praised for saying that. Matter of fact, Jesus tells him, "Blessed are you, for flesh and blood has not told you this, but God in heaven has revealed it to you." Peter stepped out and got it right. So now that the disciples know that Jesus is the Messiah, Jesus begins to reveal his plan. And Peter, who just got praised, takes exception. Lord, you don't have to die. We won't let this happen. And Jesus doesn't just tell him he's wrong. He says, "Get thee behind me, Satan." He calls Peter Satan. Peter is thinking only in earthly terms, only about what he wants to happen or not happen. Jesus is revealing the plan of heaven, and Peter can't see it because it doesn't line up with Peter's view of how the world should be. Too often we do that. We look at what we would do if we were king or if we were God. But I think it's probably a good thing I'm not God, because I'm pretty selfish when it comes to worldly things. I wouldn't want my best friend to die either. And I'm pretty sure Peter considered Jesus to be his best friend. He was proud to be Jesus' right-hand man. It made him feel important, and he didn't want to lose that. If Jesus died, where would that leave Peter? Too often we are Peter, floundering around trying to find meaning, trying to make the world line up with our own ideology. This world that God created is not perfect, but it is good. And even though bad things sometimes happen, there is always room for God's goodness to be revealed through the people who call him Lord. Through the love that is expressed through the people who say yes to God's call to go out into the world and to be Christ to those who are suffering. When Harvey hit, Sam and I were at Camp Allen, and we were flooded in with no way to get home. We had food, beds to sleep in, a roof over our head, clean water. We didn't have to worry about the flooding. We were somewhat isolated from the world, and so we did what we could. We prayed and offered up intercession for those who were in the brunt of the storm. Now we are back, and we are all being called to serve. And right now we have an excellent opportunity to serve those who have lost homes or parts of their homes to Harvey. This evening we will be serving a meal here at Grace in the Parish Hall for anyone in Alvin. We plan to provide a place to come and eat and be filled, so that those who have no place to cook can come and eat, so that those who have spent the day mucking out a flooded house will have a clean place to sit and be still for a few minutes. A place for people to come and to share stories of their experiences during Harvey, to cry over what is lost, to rejoice over what has been found, to know that someone cares enough just to listen. For us, this is a place to come and to be of service to others in our community by serving and by listening. God has given us an opportunity to share his love for all people. I invite you to come join us tonight as we come together as a community of believers to do something to reach out to those who are in need and to be Christ's hands and feet and ears in this place. Amen.